historically, if you look in every community in the United States, this is a short-lived way to make money, and it always ends up for the worse. You never hear a story, or not enough stories, where a drug dealer, has overcome his dealings and become a good or living a different life. You don't.
Basically, only in movies. I mean, there are a few examples.
Yeah, well, there's some that have.
No, there's a few examples. I'm not going to deny there are a few examples. Right. But the few examples are not the whole.
Right.
Okay, so that's the problem. And the problem with the acquisition of wealth is that does wealth, if you're an unhappy person, does the acquisition of wealth make you happy or more unhappy? You see, the having money is only alleviates one set of problems. And that's, you don't have to worry about cash.
And see, that's the problem. And you hit a good point. Because that void that you have inside of you, and see, if you're lacking a foundation of finance, you think that once that foundation is cemented, that you no longer have another problem. But if the problem is you, and you have not reconciled you with you being you, and you have this wealth, what you actually done is create a new problem for yourself.
Absolutely. I mean, how many wealthy basketball players or wealthy sports stars end up broke in the last years of their lives, or end up going to jail from selling drugs, or whatever the case may be? It's because they didn't have a foundation already established that made them whole. Okay, right. They weren't doing things that made them feel like them.
Right.
So now they need to have the adulation and all that stuff that came from sports, and they need it on a different level. Okay, and then there's a group of guys out here who've done very well in their retirement. I mean, there's a guy Dave Bing, who's a mayor of Detroit and has a thing called Bing Industries. These guys, there are a few that have done well.
Alan Page
is Minnesota Supreme Court. Yeah, I mean, there are men who've done well, but the majority of them, what's that boy's name? Dante West?
Yeah, Delonte
West. Now, he has some mental illness. I respect that. But here's a kid who had all the gifts that God could give you, and it's still not enough.
But see, it was the physical gifts.
Right. I'm not saying it was mental. I'm just saying physical. He had the gifts. Mm-hmm. God gives you gifts. The artist, Leonardo da Vinci had God's gifts. Okay. However, there was something lacking within himself that allowed him to fall as far as he fell. J.R. Richards and people like that, who are falling after they made all this money. So the bottom line is not the money. It's not the acquisition of wealth. Because it's only acquisition of wealth it's only temporary. It is what you are inside. It is how you base your life. It is what foundation you put your house on. And if your foundation is cracked, it's going to fall eventually. Well, it's one of the problems I got with America. It was built on a shaky foundation.
I think even the movies, biblically it's there, but they even used the Three Little Pigs concept, which was taken from a biblical concept of the foundation that you build your life. And it starts from the inside. See, that foundation you're talking about comes from the inside, because what we try to do, we try to get validation from outside sources to make us feel, like you said, whole. Yeah. But the wholeness of you comes from inside of you. Yeah, you could not from the outside.
You could never be validated by some outside source. So who is that person? Who is that person to validate you?
Yeah.
The only person that can validate you is you.
And that's what we're talking about for having relationships and thinking that your partner is going to validate you. But guess what? No one can validate you by you, and that's why a lot of relationships don't work, because they expect giving the responsibility to someone else to make them feel.
A relationship is a shared experience.
Right.
It's two people sharing love, life, and laughter. Okay, that's a relationship. It's not about validation. If you don't come into a relationship with yourself whole, you're not gonna get it from that person, because they're having their own issues. But if you both come to the table for a feast. But life is a feast. It's like a banquet. Mm-hmm. You go in there, you sit down, and you just eat, and you enjoy yourselves. That's what relationships should be about. Not about me validating you, you validating me. No, validate yourself. You know what I'm saying, brother?
And also remember, and that's what the validation is. You see, even I think it's Galatians. I did write this down. I want to remember Galatians 6:7. Do not be mocked. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. You reap what you sow. That's a premise that happens. We don't understand that because we'll do things and don't believe. Have you seen people like incredulous when something bad happens to them?
Yeah, why me? What did you do? What did you do before that?
And you look at them and saying like, that's another thing about self-esteem, self-awareness, that when you're doing things and you know you do things that something's going to happen in that process. It's going to spin around and come back at you. So the more that you live, the more aware you are about self, the more you do things to want to help other people. When you're lacking the knowledge of self, I think it creates a problem. Unfortunately, I think you're right. There's society now is that it feeds you the thing that they want you to make you just that feel good feeling.
Yeah.
But the reality is no one.
Everything.
And even now they got these websites now. Do you really want to know yourself? Yeah. Do you really want to be? And there are things in that it's deceiving, because what happens is the only way you can know self is within, and like you said, the way to know self is know the Father. And that's the key to that. That's the story for another day. But I'm good. We can wrap this up unless you got something.
I got one more thing to say.
Yeah.
My blessing to you this morning or this afternoon is you have to start sowing your field. Okay? If you do not sow your field, if you wait for rain, if you pray for rain without preparing the field, you are never going to get anything accomplished in life. So please, my brothers and sisters, prepare your field. Okay? Prepare, and I mean by prepare your field, prepare your life. And if you prepare your life, everything will fall in place. Okay? But if you don't expect to just drop out the sky like manana from heaven, because there's no such thing. Everything is about preparation.
It is. There's no such thing as magical. Magical thinking is just that. Magical thinking. Nothing is done and nothing ever is acquired without hard work and preparation. I totally agree with my brother. Thank you very much for allowing us to share. And we'll be back. Two brothers speaking. Be blessed. I'm Glenn.
I'm Gary.